All right, Wilson, let's get this week started, shall we? Good morning out there, America. 629 downtown Billings. We've got about 34 degrees. A little windy out there still this morning as we look at First News. Fair, accurate, you get the damn truth. Syria's prime minister said most of the cabinet ministers are still working from offices in Damascus after rebels entered the capital over the weekend and overthrew President Assad. Streams of refugees crossing in from neighboring countries now. They're hoping for a more peaceful future. In the meantime, Vladimir Putin has offered President Assad asylum in Russia. That's interesting. Tens of thousands of people held in Syria's prisons because they didn't like the president. They've been freed. Insurgents began lightening their advance across the country as they toppled President Assad. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. Search for the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson's killer, now into its fifth day, and now beyond New York City. Police said the man left the city on a bus Wednesday after the shooting. The suspect is seen on video in an uptown bus station 45 minutes later. The FBI offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest. They found clues up until that point, found the backpack in Central Park. The gunman used a faked ID, paid cash while he was staying in that city for 10 days, captured on thousands of surveillance cameras blanketing Manhattan. So that allowed the police to build a timeline of his movements up until that shooting. Israel has struck some suspected chemical and long-range weapon sites in Syria. The foreign minister said the aim is to keep them from rebels. Palestinian health officials, meanwhile, said 6 people died in airstrikes overnight. UN Security Council will hold an emergency closed-door meeting on Syria today at the request of Russia, which granted President Assad asylum in their country. Vladimir Putin personally made the decision to offer asylum to Assad to get out of Syria. In the meantime, Donald Trump is pushing Russian leader Vladimir Putin to act to reach an immediate ceasefire with the Ukraine. Trump describes it as part of his active efforts as president-elect to end the war, despite being weeks from taking office. Trump also said he would be open to reducing military aid to the Ukraine and pulling the United States out of NATO if need be. In the meantime, though, you have the Biden administration and all of the people in our Defense Department all jumping in, announcing the U.S. will provide now another $1 billion in weapons to Ukraine. Yeah, folks, the industrial complex in the Defense Department is making billions of dollars. The Biden administration is going to rush to spend all the money that was approved by Congress to bolster Kiev before Donald Trump takes office. Drones, munitions, high mobility artillery, rocket systems now. All of this now being allowed to be used when during the first couple years it was not, including long-range missiles into Russia. They are creating some real havoc and turmoil for the incoming president. A Russian attack on a military facility in Ukraine on November the 21st, that marked the first use of a powerful new weapon. That hypersonic ballistic missile with multiple warheads. In the past, such missiles were designed to carry nukes. This missile struck its target with submunitions that apparently were unarmed but had enough kinetic energy that their impact delivered the equivalent force of just tons and tons of explosives. Vladimir Putin delivered a stern warning to the Ukraine and Western allies like the U.S. and others that they would use these weapons against Ukraine and their allies, who allow them to use longer-range missiles to strike inside of Russia. And while all hell is breaking loose there, China's on the move. China sent 14 warships and 7 military aircraft and 4 hot air balloons near Taiwan, according to their defense ministry. China's military activities come amid speculation that Beijing might organize some military drills around that island in response to the Taiwanese president's recent visit to some of their Pacific allies, including the U.S. China claims Taiwan as a self-ruled democracy of 23 million. They claim it as their own territory and have vowed to get it back. Donald Trump did an interview over the weekend on NBC. Unlike Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or any of them that never do interviews, Trump does all of them. He said he can't guarantee that his tariffs on key U.S. foreign trade partners wouldn't raise prices for a while for consumers. He's suggesting once more that some of his political officials and rivals are trying to pursue legal cases against him again and still trying to imprison him. He aired that on Sunday. He also touched on some of his monetary policies, immigration, health care, other things that need to be fixed. However, keep this in mind, folks. President-elect Donald Trump also, and they didn't put this in the article, said that he would not impose tariffs on goods and services that the United States doesn't offer as an alternative.
Okay.
So, in other words, he wouldn't put tariffs on things that we rely on heavily from other countries. Let me give you, for instance, like coffee.
Okay.
We don't grow coffee here. Most all of our coffee has to be imported. He wouldn't put tariffs on coffee then because we're a captive consumer. They didn't put that in the article. New report out said the Earth experienced its second warmest November on record, second only to last year. This measured by the European Climate Service called Copernicus. Was once again, we never got the cities that they used in their survey. The world's goal is to limit human-caused global warming below a threshold of 1.5 degrees. Scientists said the main driver is burning fossil fuels. That's not what all scientists say.
No.
That's just what Copernicus's scientist said is the reason for the world temperatures. On record, the Earth is 4.6 billion years. We've got records dating back 150. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, he was down in North Carolina over the weekend. He was surveying hurricane damage. Vance and his wife visited the Fairview Volunteer Fire Department. That was flooded. They heard roughly from a dozen people that actually have contracted pneumonia now because the response has been so slow. Simple message, he said to the people of Appalachia is, we haven't forgotten you. We will help you as soon as we take over. Meantime, those folks have been largely ignored by the Biden administration, FEMA, and others. Slow to respond. Estimates said there's 120,000 homes that were damaged down there, over 6,000 square miles. Roads need to be replaced. Sewer and water systems need to be replaced. More than 100 North Carolina residents died from that storm. Stocks on Friday, up and down. S&P was up 15. The Dow was down 123. NASDAQ was up 159 points on Friday. World shares so far are mixed today because of what's unraveling across the Atlantic Ocean. Syria, China, South Korea. Oil prices were up. They've also gone up because of the uncertainty over there. Jumped 75 cents. Now it's $67.95 a barrel. A federal appeals court Friday unanimously upheld a law that could lead to a ban on TikTok as soon as next month, handing a resounding defeat to the social media platform. They're fighting for their survival here in the U.S. Court in the District of Columbia ruled the law, which requires TikTok to break ties with the China company, or they have to be banned by mid-January. Oh, there's a recall. More than 1 million pairs of oven gloves are being recalled due to a burn hazard. Dozens of injury reports. QVC recalling 1.1 million of their Temptations oven gloves. They fail to provide sufficient heat protection, according to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. QVC received 162 reports of insufficient heat protection, including 92 minor burns. Consumers in possession of those gloves are urged to stop using them and contact QVC for a refund. They were sold between August of 2018 and August of 2024. They're $4 to $13 a pair. And I didn't even know QVC was still on.
Oh, and going strong.
Are they? I don't even know where they're at. I don't think I could find them.
It's 507 or 508 on cable. I just watched, and the thing is, where you go to the store and you don't take a cart, I should never stop on QVC because they gave me a little bit of the sales pitch and I started saying, you know what? I could use one of those.
Oh, no. Well, let's see here. Polarization is Merriam-Webster's 2024 word of the year, according to their authors. Originating back in the 1800s, the word is now most commonly used to mean causing strong disagreement between opposing factions and groups. They choose the word of the year based on data, tracking a rise in its search and also its usage. U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt died in 1906. What Congress was unwilling to do through legislation, he used his new authority under the Antiquities Act to design Devil's Tower in Wyoming as the first national monument. Then came protections for others, Petrified Forest in Arizona, some places in New Mexico, the Grand Canyon, Death Valley, Zion National Park, the list goes on and on. President Joe Biden has now created 6 monuments and has restored and enlarged their boundaries for a handful of others. The proposals range from an area dotted with palm trees in Southern California to a site sacred to Native Americans in Nevada's high desert. Also other places around the country. So now there will be 6 new national monuments added to the U.S.'s resume. And over the weekend, I know a lot of you probably didn't hear about it or probably didn't think about it because it was the weekend, but it was the December 7th, 1941 anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor 83 years ago. And they had their somber ceremony in Hawaii like they always do. Had 2 survivors there. One was 104 and one was 102. Ike Schaub, Pearl Harbor attack survivor. He was so determined to stand in Duluth during the ceremony honoring those killed that he spent 6 weeks in physical therapy prior to his trip to Pearl Harbor to help him get out of his wheelchair so he could stand when they played the national anthem and had the flag shine down there in Pearl Harbor. Amazing. That bombing killed 2,300 servicemen. Half of them were sailors. Dozens of survivors have been joining that event for years and years. Today, there are only 16 left. 16. That's all we have left from Pearl Harbor. And these 2 showed up at 104 and 102. Ken Stevens, he was 102. He served on the USS Whitney, and they observed a moment of silence when the attack came through and said they hope, if they can, if they're able, that they will be there next year to pay tribute to all those who died. So 16 left. That's all that's left. Cat Country News Time is 6:44. Sports and weather next.
In sports, what I read on it last week was inaccurate, so I gave you some inaccurate information. I would like to update that. The people that I was reading from thought that Juan Soto was going to get about $630 million, and he didn't. He got $765 million for 15 years, and none of the money is deferred.
How old is he?
26.
Yeah, way too much.
It is. He can opt out after 5 years because he might be ready for a bigger deal in 5 years if he keeps playing well.
That gives him to 41?
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah, I know.
Dumb, stupid. Would have never done that. 38 degrees today. Chance of some flurries off and on throughout the day. Still a little breezy, not quite as bad as yesterday. Tomorrow, cloudy, 39. And then we're back up into the 40s by the end of the week. Downtown, scattered flurries out there. 33 degrees, 646. That's what's happening. Mark and Paul here together. Thanks for tuning into the Cat.